Why do hens lay eggs?
They have to?
Because if they drop them, they'd break.
Terrible.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Squared podcast, where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I'm Winter from theredparty.com. This week, we're talking about eggs.
Eggs.
The incredible edible egg. Yes, indeed. Let's talk about it.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.
Sharon, how has your week been? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I had a little bit of a cold, but getting over it. You know,
that's
fine.
Good.
It's fine. It's good. Have you eaten anything fun this week?
I made banana muffins in my Blendtec blender.
Really? What makes these banana muffins so special?
They're easy to make.
Oh, okay.
Well, they're like 5 ingredients, and you just throw them in the Blendtec.
See, that's the thing I
love. And then pour the batter into your pan.
And it was easy. So it was very tasty?
Yes, very tasty. I did make a little bit of a mistake because I was in a big hurry, and I saw this recipe online, and I thought, oh, that looks great. I'm going to do that. And I just followed the recipe without, I read through it, then I did it, but I didn't
super pay attention.
That as I was blending them, it was pretty liquidy.
Yes.
And we live at a high altitude.
Yes.
So I should have added a tablespoon or 2 of flour to them.
Okay. Do they not usually have flour or just additional flour?
These ones don't have flour. There's nut butter, bananas, eggs, and some vanilla and baking soda.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So I should have just added 2 tablespoons of flour just to kind of get it thick.
Interesting. And you really liked them?
Loved them. They're really good. I've been eating them for breakfast all week.
Oh, okay. I think that is pretty fun because the Blendtec is really fun, actually.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's really easy to clean.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things about using it is I've got it in a place where I can take it down easily.
Yeah.
Kind of like when we were talking about food processors.
Yes. It needs to be accessible or else you're not going to use it.
Exactly. So my blender is really accessible, and I just take it out and it washes up really fast. There's even an actual wash cycle on the Blendtec.
Yes.
So you just put in a little bit of water and a drop of dish soap, and then you just let it go, and then it heats the water in the blender, and then it's all clean.
And then you just dump it out. Kind of, you do a little rinse, right?
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
That is pretty awesome. So it's a keeper.
It is a keeper.
Where's the recipe from?
It is from, let me pull that up really quick. I got it off of the website called 30 Handmade Days.
Okay.
And we will go ahead and put a link to it in our show notes.
Great. We can totally do that.
So yeah. What did you eat this week, Winter? Anything fun?
Yeah, totally. And I didn't make it, of course. I don't know what it is, but I think things that other people make taste way better than when I make them.
Oh.
I think I do a pretty good job, but maybe it's because
somebody else is doing it. So there's less work and you just have to eat it.
I feel great about it. I feel great about not making that. Lee is probably just Winter, stop. You need to make some stuff more. Well, I went to a concert. We went to an outdoor concert because it's summertime.
Those are the funnest.
Oh, it was so much fun. So we went with our friends. We went with a couple sets of friends. So, hey, everybody that went to the Ben Folds concert. That was fun. So we went to that concert and up at Deer Valley near Park City, Utah, if you're familiar with that area.
Which is nice. It's up the canyon. It's really cool.
Yeah. It sometimes gets a little too cold though. So the cool thing about these, of course, outdoor concerts is that you can generally bring in a cooler, have a picnic.
Yeah, it's great.
And so we all kind of said, bring your own kind of main dish, but then you bring something to share. And my friend, and I can never remember what we gave her. She's my vegan friend.
Okay.
So she had listened to our episode about summer foods, and we were talking about potato salads and that type of thing. So she made her potato salad that is hecka good.
Oh.
And
what was in it?
Okay, so she's vegan. So I probably should have asked her about where she got this recipe. I'll post it in the show notes. But potatoes, green beans, cooked green beans, or not super cooked. Maybe they were. I don't know. I don't know if they were really crunchy and fresh.
Were they just fresh green beans?
It might have been fresh green beans, but I felt like they were maybe a little like quick blanch or something, a little tender. And then, and I don't know what was the binder of it. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think it was mayonnaise, but there was something in it, and there was like the whole grain mustard.
Oh, yum.
Seeds.
Okay.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good. I was like, I'm just going to have some more of that. So thanks so much for bringing that, because that was so good. I've had it before, but I forgot about it. And then she brought it again.
That's always nice when that happens.
I know. It's like, this one's a winner. And it was so tasty. So that's what I ate. It was delicious. I mean, Lee made his wonderful penne pasta salad, and I love that too. So I was like in heaven. I was just like, just give me all the salads, all of them.
Nice. Which is perfect for an outdoor concert.
Yeah, exactly.
And now for the main course.
Well, let's get down to the topic at hand. Eggs. Egg is one of those words that I say two different ways, like caramel. Sometimes I say caramel. Sometimes I say caramel.
Okay, but how do you say egg two different ways?
Sometimes I say egg, and sometimes I say egg.
Egg.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it kind of depends on how fast I'm talking, maybe.
That's weird. I'm just going to say that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Weird.
So I'm sorry, everybody, in advance for saying egg, because it probably grates on you, and I should say egg.
Yeah.
But you do you, and let me do me.
Yeah. She's going to say it two different ways. I may say it two different ways. We'll try and take notice of that. So eggs.
Yeah.
Why did we decide to talk about eggs?
Because there's so much to talk about when you're talking about eggs.
Yeah. And you know what? Since we've been podcasting for 1 year, we were like, why don't we go back to some of the staples? Like, not staples, but
some of the basics.
So, and eggs are one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Eggs have been around for a long time.
Who came first, the chicken or the egg?
I actually thought you were going to do some sort of like that kind of thing for our joke today.
Oh, I've got more.
I know.
I've got more.
She was so excited, you guys. You have no idea. So, like poultry, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have, I mean, there's definitely different poultry that was wild.
Right. Yeah.
But then they started to get, the chicken got domesticated eventually. And I think it's been domesticated so that they could get the eggs.
Yeah, because
long
hens
time ago.
produce a lot of eggs versus domesticating a chicken for its meat.
Yeah, because it's only a one-time thing if you're just doing it for the meat.
Yeah, one and done.
One and done. Chicken eggs, man, loads of chicken eggs. So, and I mean, there's kind of been some discussion on when they got domesticated, but so you can't really pinpoint it. But they even have like in Egypt in 1500 BCE. They talked about how 1500 like chickens were brought to Egypt and they were used for those eggs. And even in Egypt, there was a tomb that in 1420 BCE, they show a picture of a man, a depiction of a man carrying bowls of like big ostrich eggs and other types of eggs. So eggs have been
hieroglyphs of eggs.
Yes, exactly. Like they've been around for a while. So they have been, I think it's a versatile ingredient in your pantry.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It can be a main. It can be an ingredient in something.
It's crazy. Yeah. I love eggs just straight. So, okay. So we should probably talk about the chicken first though.
Okay.
Should we talk about the chicken?
Let's talk about the chicken.
Because I feel like the chicken...
You're going to say the chicken came first.
I'm going to say the chicken came first. So we should talk about the chicken first.
Okay.
I don't know much about the chicken though.
Okay.
Do you know anything that you can tell me about it?
Well, I have a little bit.
Okay.
So all animals kind of work hard at reproduction, as animals do.
That's
But the hen is kind of the workhorse. Animal pun, if you will. The hen's reproductive effort, defined as the fraction of body weight that an animal deposits daily in her potential offspring, is 100 times greater than a human's effort. So each egg...
Oh, because
she's laying so much, right?
Yeah, she is laying a ton. Okay.
So each egg is about 3% of the hen's weight. So
each egg?
Yeah, each egg.
People, that's
each.
Like, okay, and they generally lay about 1 egg a day, maybe more.
A little bit, yeah.
Right?
So it takes 25 hours from the time it releases from the hen's ovary to lay.
That is crazy.
It's about a day. But I mean,
That's
they just
crazy.
kind of keep going.
Yeah. Okay.
So each egg is about 3% of the hen's body weight. So in a year of laying, she converts about 8 times her body weight into eggs.
No way. That's crazy.
A quarter of her daily energy expenditure goes toward egg making.
That's crazy.
And a hen is born with several thousand microscopic germ cells in her single ovary.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah. And then, do you want to talk about breeds?
I kind of do, because when we get into eggs a little bit more, I kind of want to know about the different colored eggs, for example.
Well, the different colors depend on the breeds.
They do. Okay, so let's talk about the different breeds of chicken, because there are plenty of eggs out there, people. We're gonna maybe do a little quick disclaimer. There are duck and geese eggs, there's ostrich eggs, you can eat an emu egg. I mean, there are plenty of eggs out there, but we're gonna focus on the chicken.
Right. So egg color is determined usually by the hen's genetic background. That egg color has no relation to the way that egg tastes or the nutritional value, which I find kind of interesting, because I don't know if you remember this, but in the 80s and 90s, people were on a kick before there was like the free range movement and stuff like that. People were on a kick to get brown eggs.
Yes.
Because brown eggs are so much healthier.
Yeah, that's totally not true.
It's BS.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
Same nutritional value.
It all depends on, when it comes to the breed of the chicken / the color of the egg.
Right.
Okay.
So you've got leghorns, which I was so pleased to see that is an actual breed.
Leghorn.
Like Foghorn Leghorn from Looney Tunes. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That loudmouth rooster?
Uh-huh. Yep.
He's a chicken. Leghorn is an actual breed of chicken. I had no idea.
Okay, leghorn.
They have a lightly pigmented white egg, typically. The brown eggs are produced by breeds that were originally dual-purpose egg and meat birds. And even those birds, so those would be like Rhode Island Reds or Plymouth Rocks.
Whoa.
Those birds have been crossbreeded with other types of birds. And so some chickens can lay both a white egg and a brown egg.
Interesting.
Depending on the day.
So I have also heard, let me just interject really quickly, and it's probably because of those breeds, but they say that the earlobe of the chicken, did you know chickens have earlobes?
I didn't know that they had earlobes or really an ear.
And an ear, but they have ears. So apparently the earlobe, that color is usually maybe a good indication of what color egg they're going to get. Because I think the leghorn has white earlobes, and those Rhode Island and the
Plymouth
Rock ones are kind of reddish brown earlobes. Isn't that weird? Okay.
Interesting.
Random tidbit. Sorry.
Check out your chicken's earlobe.
Yes.
The next time you're at your
coop.
Because there's some urban farmers out there.
There are, actually.
If you're an urban farmer, P.S., please email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com. We want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because we think it would be great to interview you. There's also a certain type of Chinese chicken.
Chinese chicken, woo woo, in the house.
Their eggs have these fine yellow dots on them.
Oh, like
how
kind of
pretty
flecks and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
There's a Chilean breed that lays blue eggs.
See, I think the blue eggs and those kind of greenish eggs are pretty.
Yeah, and when you cross them, these Chilean birds, with the brown egg breeds, that's when they make both the blue and the brown pigments, and then they get these green eggs.
Oh.
Really pretty.
So it really, the egg...
Depends on your bird.
It just depends on your bird. Okay.
Yeah.
But it doesn't affect the nutritional value.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Nope. So the only differences in there are probably going to be like what the hen is eating.
Yes.
If they are organic.
Yeah.
Or free range, but even free range has kind of it still can be pretty industrialized.
Yeah. Because I've wondered that too. I actually looked this up because I've seen yolks that are super, super golden and yellow.
Pretty.
And really super pretty. And I've heard that it's because, it depends on the feed that they're getting. If they're getting more kind of yellow corn or marigold petals in their feed, then it will affect the yolk color. I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah. And it's totally true. And because there's another random other thing. Isn't there, so like Eggland's Best, right? Mm-hmm. they tout a way higher nutritional value per egg for each of their eggs, like higher omega-3s and stuff because of what they feed their hens.
That would make sense.
I think it's like flaxseed. I mean, they can like the FDA has given them a stamp of approval for higher
Vegan
nutritional
birds.
Yeah, because they really get fed way better stuff than I think your typical bird out there. So
That's cool.
Okay, sorry for the interjection.
No, that's okay. So the completed egg is expelled blunt end first. So we know that we have a blunt end of the egg and the pointy end.
Which is a little surprising to me.
Yeah. So the blunt end is first. So like I said, it takes about 25 hours to lay the egg after it leaves the ovary. And as the egg cools down, the contents inside the egg shrink slightly. So when I say that when the egg cools down, it's cooling down from the hen's body temperature,
Right.
which is about 106 degrees Fahrenheit,
Okay.
which is 41 Celsius for you international listeners that are on a better measurement scale than us.
Hey.
So yeah, so that contraction in the inner shell, the membrane pulls away a little bit and it creates a little bit of an airspace.
Right.
And that airspace can become a measurement for quality and freshness of the egg too.
Right, because it like if it's been out longer, then it will kind of
Create a larger-
continue to shrink, right?
Yep. So about the egg quality. So in order to determine egg quality without breaking them, egg producers do a thing that's called candling.
Okay, what is that?
So that is where they pass a bright light. They place the egg in front of a bright light that's bright enough to kind of pass through the egg and it illuminates the contents.
Okay.
So back in the day, it
They
used to
used-
just be the human eye and a candle.
And a candle. Okay, that's,
So
why
they called it candling.
I was wondering. I was like, is it because they use candles? But no.
Yeah. So now they're using like lights and scanners and
Yeah.
things like that.
I'm
So
sure it's
a lot more high tech.
Yeah.
But what these old time farmers would do is they would hold these candles up to the egg. And so that readily detects any cracks that would be in the shell. It can also detect any blood spots
Yes.
that are usually harmless.
Right.
But, you know, you don't want to crack your egg and find that.
Quality wise, people
It's
are
kinda gross.
not. Yeah.
Yeah. I've cracked a couple of eggs open over the years and have found that. And it's kind of...
I'm okay with it. I'm just gonna say that.
Oh, are you?
I am. Like,
I get kind of grossed out.
I get it. I totally get it. But I'm like, okay, I'm just scramble it. That's just me. Just
Yeah.
putting it out there.
All right.
I've eaten a lot of weird stuff in my life. I'm Asian, so
That's not weird. It's culture.
I know, but like for a lot of people, it's weird. So no, I'm just putting it out there.
Anyway, so it can also detect any large air cells and pockets in the egg when you candle it. So you can kind of see what's going on. You can kind of see like thickness of yolk and things like that to determine the condition of the yolk and the white to see like if the egg's too runny, it might be like a lesser grade or something like that. They do, they twirl it really quick just to kind of see the movement.
Really?
Yeah. Kind of cool.
Sloshes around a little bit more, huh?
Yeah. So if the yolk is really easy to see and it's pretty mobile, it kind of means it's deformed, and that's usually a lower egg quality.
So, because I've seen the like grade AA, grade A, grade
B.
I've never seen grade B at the store though before.
I haven't either. I've seen A and AA.
Yeah. And I think I would say that I'm sure that they probably use grade B stuff in like some of the commercially, you know, just like the big cartons like of already pre-packaged eggs.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
You know, or maybe even powdered eggs. I bet that's what they do.
Maybe. So according to Harold McGee, there's 3 different grades of eggs.
Okay.
So there's the AA, the A, and the B. So the AA has a high proportion of thick, white, and a firm, rounded yolk. So it's kind of like your pretty egg.
Right.
So when they have those commercials like "This is your brain,"
Yeah.
in the frying pan, that's a AA egg, and the single A egg it's less thick and it's a weaker yolk membrane usually. So it spreads more when you crack it into the pan.
Oh, I have definitely seen that before.
Yeah. So
No.
those are the eggs that if you're making a fried egg or something, you can crack it right in the pan. It seems to kind of spread all over the pan.
Yeah.
Versus a AA egg will kind of
stay in one place.
Stay in one spot. Yeah. And then the B, it just kind of spreads even further.
Yeah. So
And
not
the
as
yolk-
much
The
protein,
yolk is
maybe.
easily broken on those pea eggs.
That's always disappointing when you're making a easy egg.
Yeah.
Your
But
yolk.
I mean, the egg quality, if your AA eggs are not very fresh, then your A egg might be even a better option to use.
Interesting.
So just because over time they deteriorate,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, they probably start evaporating some of the, Okay.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about storage position.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
So,
Because I know how I store my eggs.
how do you store your eggs?
In an egg carton in my fridge.
So do you use like the egg shelf? Do you remember the egg shelves? I don't even know if they make those anymore.
The ones with the divots?
Mhm.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
My grandmother used to use those.
I heard that it's not, you want to store the egg at a certain temperature and then but the egg shelves are usually on the door
Mm-hmm.
and it's not as cold there or something like that. Is that correct?
Well, because you're constantly opening it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not you want a colder temperature as soon as the egg leaves the chicken. You want it to cool down so it'll just stop breaking down basically.
Gotcha.
So, but back in the 50s, there were some studies about storage and like the actual posture of the egg. So do you store it blunt end up or the pointy tip up?
No.
Yeah. So
Wait, I think okay, I'm just going to say that they always come with the pointy end up in the carton.
Yes, they do.
Okay. There's a reason for that?
There is a reason.
No way. Okay, let's talk about it then.
So studies in the 1950s found that the albumin quality tended to decline more slowly in eggs stored blunt end up, and many states adopted this as the official position for packing egg cartons.
Wait, the blunt end up?
Mm-hmm. Blunt end up. Studies in the 60s and 70s, when retailers began to stack the cartons on their side to display the top label, found that the posture doesn't affect albumin quality.
Oh.
So, eggs that are stored on their sides give somewhat better centered yolks when they're hard cooked. And perhaps both the yolk can fight gravity equally. So it's more
on
centered
its side?
on its side. Yeah. But typically you'll see them stored blunt end down
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Okay. So okay. I was like, there's a thing?
Tricked
It's
ya.
a thing?
Yeah.
Apparently it was a thing, but apparently it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's funny. Okay.
Do you ever watch Jimmy Fallon?
Yes. Oh, I know what
One
you're going
of
to
my
talk about.
One of my favorite games that he plays is the egg game.
The egg roulette.
Yeah.
I know.
Egg roulette. I think my favorite one.
Okay, wait. You got to explain what egg roulette is.
Well, do you have a favorite episode of Egg Roulette?
I really like the one with, it was like a big football player or something.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's the big macho guys that is like, it's hilarious. So
I thought it was funny with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, that was a good one. So basically they have like 12 eggs in a carton.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, 3 out of 4 eggs are boiled.
Right.
And then 1,
it's usually, I think,
I don't know what the ratio is.
I think it's something like 4 are raw.
4 are raw out of the entire 12
Yeah.
dozen, right?
4 or 5 are raw.
And then you have to just choose an egg.
Yeah.
And then you smash it. You're supposed to smash it on your head.
Mm-hmm.
And so like Jimmy's always in like a nice suit, right?
Yeah. And all of his guests are too.
Yeah.
They're usually these celebrities that are doing kind of a promotion for a movie or something like that. And so they're dressed really well. Sometimes they're going to award shows afterward and stuff like that. So they're really nice, like red carpet ready almost.
Yeah. And then, so there's always the chance that you're going to
get egg on your face in a very literal way.
A raw egg on your head, which is really funny. Okay, so go ahead.
So an easy way. So we've talked about playing this at home because Ike and I crack up about watching these all the time. But one of the rules with Jimmy's game that they play is once you take an egg out of the carton, that's your egg. You can't, putbacks.
Yes. Because you can I feel like you could feel a difference.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one easy way to tell whether an intact egg is raw or if it's already cooked is to give it a spin on its side.
Yep.
And if it spins fast and smooth, then that means it's cooked.
Yes.
If it's kind of wobbly,
yep,
then that means it's raw. The liquid insides kind of slip and slosh.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that resists an easy movement. So that was something that we used to do when I was younger. We used to torment my poor grandmother. She was a really good sport about it, but she collected chickens in her kitchen. That was like her kitchen theme.
Little tchotchkes of chickens. Okay.
Yes, everywhere. She had a chicken apron and chicken tea towels, but then there was like chickens in the windows, like these ceramic chickens everywhere. And she had this one that was in a basket of hay. This like, but not actual hay. It was like Spanish moss or something like that.
Yeah.
On the dining room table. And she had these 2 ceramic eggs in there next to the chicken. So we would always swap those out with real eggs.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Sometimes for weeks at a time.
Oh my goodness.
So the eggs all got eaten. No one really ever got sick, thankfully. But it was the South, so the air conditioner was always running pretty constantly.
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So, but it's an easy way to tell. So
if it's a real
same
egg or
with the
not.
ceramic egg, it doesn't wobble as much.
Just in case you needed to verify a ceramic egg.
Well, because we would stick the ceramic eggs back in the refrigerator in the egg shelf that grandma kept all of the eggs in.
That's hilarious.
And so sometimes like they were a slightly different size, but sometimes like, you know, grandma would just buy not extra large eggs at the store, just larger mediums. And so then they'd be the same size and you couldn't quite tell. You didn't want to break grandma's egg.
Nope. She's going to get mad.
Yeah.
All of her chicken tchotchkes.
Yep. Say that 5 times fast.
I can't.
Chicken tchotchkes.
I can't even say it once fast. Once slowly, actually. What are we talking about? Okay. Well, that's very interesting. Can I interject something?
Yes, interject away.
So, did you know that? So, I've always wondered this because in America we refrigerate our eggs.
Mm-hmm.
In European countries, they do not.
Yeah. Do
you know why?
No.
Because in European countries, they vaccinate their chickens against salmonella.
Oh.
So they look dirtier, right? It's because of the fact that
the dirty European eggs or the dirty chickens.
So they vaccinate the chickens against salmonella, and then
our chickens look dirtier?
No, well, I think I don't know.
Okay, they're vaccinating chickens.
They're vaccinating their chickens, and so when they lay their eggs, they don't have this possibility of having salmonella. And in America, we don't vaccinate our chickens. And so because of that, when they lay their eggs, then they go through this process and they get, like you said, cleaned. And that cleaning process kind of breaks down a little bit of the eggshell, like that kind of outside layer. In Europe, they don't have to clean it as much because they don't have this risk. And so because our eggs here in America are a little bit more, like the shell is not as intact as the ones in Europe. There's
so it's going to break down easily because of it's so porous.
Yeah, and then they just encourage you to put it in the fridge. So I didn't know that for the longest time until Lee sent me an article about it.
That's super cool.
Yeah, so that's the kind of the difference.
So you can eat a raw egg in Europe then?
Sure, why not?
Oh man,
cookie dough.
Yes, there's no danger, or you don't have to make stupid eggless cookie dough.
No, I still eat the cookie dough. I mean, not loads of it, but I'll just have a little snitch here and there. Mm-hmm. Sharon.
Yeah.
Can we move on to the egg?
The egg?
Yeah, like egg. Like what makes up the egg?
Yeah, what does make up the egg?
Okay, so we have the egg whites.
Yes.
So the proteiny, like the whites. And then you also have the egg yolk, the yellow portion. So I've thought about this before, but I didn't know what the differences are. But so the egg white is generally a fat-free food. Like you've heard that, right? So if you want to do an egg white something omelet, it's a good route if you're watching your weight. It does have for one egg, about 0.05 grams of fat.
Okay.
So it's tiny, it's minuscule. The protein content in that is awesome. It's 3.6 grams.
Okay.
Compared to the yolk, which has 4.5 grams of fat.
Okay.
and 2.7 grams of protein. So I was
So the egg white is higher in protein.
higher in protein, super low in fat. Like I would basically say it's nothing, but your yolk packs a pretty mighty punch for the fat content.
And the flavor.
Exactly. So can I talk a little bit about both of those separately and what makes them so lovely and unique? I think they're fun.
They are. They're very utilitarian. The egg is very utilitarian.
I know. I love eggs. They're the best. So, okay. The yolk. What does the role of the yolk play in your egg? It brings fat and it brings flavor, like you mentioned before. But it also brings, it's an emulsifier. And we've talked about emulsification before in the past. So I will just kind of give you a quick overview of what that is. So if you think about two different liquids that when they are with each other, they don't naturally mix. So oil and vinegar, right? We've talked about that before.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really play well. You can mix them up really fast and then they can kind of become suspended within each other.
Right.
But that's just a temporary emulsification that you've done. You need something to permanently bring those two together to help them become a permanent emulsification. So there are a handful of ingredients that do this kind of thing. And this egg yolk is one of those things.
What?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's how, for example, mayonnaise.
Mm-hmm.
And hollandaise sauce, like those are some liquids that don't generally like each other, but because the egg yolk,
add an egg to it and it binds everything together.
It helps it stay all together. And so that's what the emulsion process, is. It helps create a more basically homogeneous mixture of ingredients that generally don't really like to be together. So the interesting thing about the egg yolk though is that so if you separate the egg yolk out and you're putting it into like a custard, for example, a lovely custard. Oh, I know. I love custards. So when the yolks are heated, the proteins that are in this yolk, they will start to unfold, and then they'll start to gel together. Now it's tricky because if you add too much heat, then they will become curdled.
It breaks.
And then you'll get graininess. Like, because haven't you had hollandaise sauce? You're like, ugh, the mouthfeel is no good. So you want to be gentle with the heat with the egg yolks because they can help, really thicken those sauces or make that custard so velvety smooth because of that fat. So yeah, it's really a lovely, the fat and the fact that it can help with the emulsion process is what makes the yolk so a lovely ingredient. Okay, egg whites. What do you think of when you think of egg whites?
Gwyneth Paltrow.
What?
I'm just kidding. Not really.
Okay, I was like, what?
Egg white omelet, which are fine. I've eaten plenty of egg white omelets.
It doesn't have very much.
Usually they're made without cheese.
I know.
And without many added ingredients that make them rather tasteless.
It's a bummer.
But then egg whites are pretty cool because you can make meringue with them.
Ding. So the cool thing, I think, yes.
So you weren't going to talk about Gwyneth Paltrow?
No, I wasn't going to talk about Gwyneth Paltrow. And I really wasn't going to talk about egg white omelets because I do think they're kind of boring. But I will say this. They do, if you need to get some protein, that's a quick way of doing it. Egg whites. So
pack a punch.
Yeah. So the egg whites, though, I will talk about the meringue because the egg whites bring foam. So we've talked about something like this before, and I can't even remember which episode it was. You guys, we've done so many of them. We've been on the air for 1 year, so I just cannot think far back. So your egg whites, if you whip them, then you're basically incorporating air, like millions of little air bubbles within these proteins, and it ends up becoming increases in volume by 8 times. It's crazy how much it can take on air. And then there's these kind of proteins that surround these air bubbles. Eventually, if you don't have anything to stabilize it, then it will fall.
What do you mean by stabilize it?
So you need something that will, and usually an acid, in order to stabilize it. And I think the acidic elements of those, like cream of tartar or lemon juice or something like that, will help everything the proteins want to stay together because they don't want to be near the acid. I think that's kind of the way it works. So you that's kind of the thing that is fun about egg whites is that it can be almost a natural leavening agent because you've got all these.
Because it'll make it rise. There's so much volume.
There's so much volume already in the first place. So think of like a souffle, or if you've ever made macaron cookies, you need that kind of the egg whites to help with the lift on that. So that's kind of the fun thing about egg whites, is that it brings it all together. Now, when you bring those both together, they make a lovely combination, right? And I want to talk about scrambled eggs.
What? Is that your favorite way to eat eggs?
You know what? When I was growing up, yes. Nowadays, it's an over easy egg because I love dipping
toast in an over easy egg.
Yeah, it's so yummy. And so but I do love a well done scrambled egg. What is your favorite way? I'm curious.
So I like poached. I like over medium. When I get over easy, it feels like
it's a little
the white is a little too runny to me.
Gotcha.
So I get over medium. So the yolk is still runny, but the white is more set.
Yes.
So I like that. I also like a soft scramble. So Ike loves making omelets and he makes sensational omelets.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so good. But lately honestly, like the last year, I've really been digging on a soft scramble.
Interesting. Okay. That's on that.
But I like eggs always.
All different ways.
Yeah. Poached.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Me too. I'll eat eggs every way possible. I think I have not met an egg that I haven't liked. Even a 100-year-old egg.
I've eaten a 100-year-old egg as well.
I don't think they're bad. So scrambled eggs. So now you're dealing with both the yolk and the whites together. And the scientific principle we're going to talk about is called coagulation. So what happens is when the eggs are exposed to heat, then what happens? So these protein strands are just kind of throughout, right? They're proteins, and there's water through them when it's raw. Okay. Now, when you cook them, they start lining up. The proteins start lining up, and the water's kind of still around it. It starts kind of solidifying. Now, if you apply too much heat or too long of heat, then the protein strands become stronger and they squeeze out the water.
Yeah, they become tough and it's gross.
We've all had eggs that are tough and not awesome. And I think scrambled eggs are like the place that people screw up the most. Right? Don't you think? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's either really good or it's not great.
If you're like, okay, I can really...
Whatever.
I need a knife to cut through my eggs.
Yeah,
you don't want
yucky.
that, right? So coagulation is when basically those egg proteins denature, they unfold, and they form a gel, like a latticed gel. And it's tricky because you're going from this liquid to a semi-solid, and you don't want it to go to a solid. You want it to be kind of that semi-solid area. So I watched a lot of videos on how famous celebrity chefs have made eggs.
Oh, what are their
scrambled eggs?
So all scrambled eggs.
Yes.
Who did you watch?
Okay, so I watched Gordon Ramsay, and I thought I love him. I thought his was very interesting, because he talks about how the keys that he said was you need some fat, and this is the other thing that helps with making your eggs tender and not rubbery and tough and stuff. So those the fat molecules will help kind of not make those protein strands line up so exactly straight.
So it keeps them from being as strong.
Yeah, exactly. So they do help you stay tender. And so what he ends up doing was he scrambled, he had a pan, put it on heat, put the eggs in, and put a few lumps of butter in there.
With the egg, or did he melt the butter first?
He dropped in like a big chunk of butter and then
the butter was not melted.
Not melted. And so what he ended up doing is rubber spatula, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
And he would put it on the heat, keep stirring. He was moving the entire time. And then he'd take it off the heat, keep moving it and stuff like that. He'd put it back on the heat, do it again and again. So you're just moving it with this rubber spatula all through the entire time. And I thought that was really, really interesting. But when he poured it out, it was beautiful. The
perfect scrambled egg.
It was really pretty. And he's like, when it's shiny still, that's when you need to pull it off and start getting it onto whatever you're going to get it on. I think he put it on sourdough bread.
Oh, so when it's shiny is when you plate it.
Yeah. or you pull it off the heat, because the heat from the pan is still cooking the eggs, and the eggs are delicate, man. They're going to start
take a lot.
They're going to, temperature wise, the yolk starts kind of coagulating at 65 to 70 degrees Celsius, which is 149 to 158 Fahrenheit. Mm-hmm. But the whites will go a little bit sooner, 60 to 73 degrees Celsius, or 140 to 163 Fahrenheit. So
that's not a very hot stove.
Nope. So
that's not a hot flame.
Nope, not at all. And so that was kind of interesting. I really liked watching that because it was just beautiful and lovely. And the thing that was so interesting, so he had pulled everything off the heat because it was still it looked a little runny to me. And I think that's always been my problem. I always want to it's still, I can see the wetness still.
Right.
But he pulled it off the heat. The heat from the pan is still cooking them. And what he ended up doing was he took a tablespoon of creme fraiche. Okay. So some dairy. The coolness of the creme fraiche helps cool the eggs down and basically...
So it stopped cooking
it. And I'm sure creme fraiche doesn't hurt the taste.
No.
And he ended up adding the salt and pepper kind of at the end, which I was a little surprised about, because he said, the salt could actually start breaking down the eggs and they can end up getting more watery.
Ah, okay.
So that was Gordon Ramsay. And then I watched Jamie Oliver's, and he did eggs 3 different ways. He did it English style, which was very similar to how Gordon Ramsay had done his. Mm-hmm. He did French style, which was over a double boiler.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's fancy.
And it took forever.
Okay.
10 minutes forever.
Was he scrambling these eggs in a pan over a double boiler?
Yeah. So he had pan of water.
The pot of water. And then the
glass bowl with the eggs.
Wow.
And he was stirring them on occasion, but he didn't really need to tend to it because it really, eggs love low heat, right? I mean, they don't really need too much to do what they do. So, but it took 10 minutes. If you are going to do scrambled eggs, you can probably whip those up in really
a few minutes.
Minutes. So, the curd was a lot smaller.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I didn't feel like those looked extremely appetizing to me.
Okay.
I don't know, soft scrambles they're usually smaller curd. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that. For texture wise, I think it's very creamy but I'm I don't want to eat a custard on my toast. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what I've heard is French scrambled eggs are very luxurious. They're very velvety because they do it over the double boiler. They're very gentle with the egg, but it just didn't look appetizing to me.
So what's the third way?
American way.
Oh, okay. We have a way.
So kind of the same thing. You start out with, he did butter. Oh, let me see. The French way, they did put butter in there also from the beginning, just cold butter, whatever. American way, you melt the butter, you put the egg in, and instead of constantly moving it, you drag your rubber spatula across through it and kind of pull it into little bigger sheets. Mm-hmm. You've seen that before.
Yeah.
And
that's how the kitchen website teaches you how to scramble eggs correctly, quote unquote.
And so they would pull it in and so you had bigger curds. And I think maybe because that's how I've grown up eating them, that's what I'm used to. And I was I think I would eat those more than the other versions. So that was kind of interesting. And then I think that was... Oh, and then there's a couple of other things. So America's Test Kitchen, I looked at theirs. Same thing with theirs. They kind of did it an American style, kind of pulling those big sheets across. They use butter at the beginning, and they said if your butter turns brown, then you've gone too far. It's too hot.
Right.
So that's no good. And then we've talked to Christopher Kimball before. Mm-hmm. On a previous episode, and he mentioned how he loves making his scrambled eggs with olive oil.
Right.
And it really, I was thinking a lot of olive oil, but there's kind of a fine balance between how much oil you're using, and because if it's too much, then your eggs are going to be greasy, and that's no fun either. So so he warms up olive oil about, I think it was there's a ratio, but I think it was a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons to your 3 eggs or whatever you're making, and warming that up nice and warm and just giving it a nice scramble. And it was that was it. So I want to know how everybody makes scrambled eggs, because I'll tell you this, I go too far.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. I'm I don't want them to be shiny in my pan. And I was oh, now they're tough.
Yeah, so Ike doesn't like my scrambled eggs because I've been on a soft scramble kick.
Mhm.
So I pull them off when they're so wet looking.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, the white's set. It's set. Like I'm like, how much is that moving?
Yeah.
And I'm like, nope, done. And then I plate it. And he's like,
I think it's texture for people too,
I think so too.
so, but I'm curious to know how our listeners make their eggs. It's just one of those things where I'm like, oh, how do you make a scrambled egg?
Or how do you prefer your eggs?
Yeah.
Tell us.
We'd love to know. I think
I'd love to do a non-scientific poll of all of our listeners. Email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com. How do you like your eggs?
Send it in. We want to hear it. Okay, so I think that's all I had about eggs. I think eggs are awesome. They are a versatile ingredient. Lee wanted me to mention one thing though.
Okay.
He is like, Winter, do you know if this is true? Do you know what a chef's toque is? The chef hat?
Oh, yeah.
There's 100 folds in them.
Yeah.
And he's like, Winter, do you know if this thing is true where they say however many folds you have in your chef's hat is the number of ways you can make an egg, or that chef can make an egg? Have you heard that before?
I have heard something in relation to eggs and the hat, but I didn't know that it was ways that they can make a hat.
Make an egg.
Make an egg, not make a hat. I'm going to ask Ike because he's the one that told me about that. So I don't know.
Bon Appetit actually did something and they researched it and they could not find anything to substantiate that.
Oh.
So,
old wives' tale, maybe?
Yeah, kind of. Well, and the thing is, it's funny because...
Or it might depend on which restaurant you're working at.
I don't know. I'm not totally sure. So they talk about they're thinking, we're going to first figure out who the person that would maybe inspire this. And it was Auguste Escoffier. I'm sure he's a huge French. And they didn't they kind of consider his Guide Culinaire the Bible of French cooking. And there was no mention of the folds in the toque versus how many eggs a chef could cook. However, in that tome is about 143 egg recipes.
Oh my gosh.
Just as a side note. So yeah, so they just kept going through different, there was an encyclopedia, a French cuisine that they looked at. They looked at Jacques Pepin's cookbooks and stuff like that. And nobody could find anything. And everybody's like, yeah, I've heard that adage before, but I don't know if it's true or not. I just love eggs. It was just so interesting. And they're like, no, there's nothing to substantiate that. At least according to Bon Appetit. So, but I thought that was interesting because I'm like, would I know how to make 100 prepare eggs 100 different ways?
No.
There's a ton of ways though.
There totally is. I know 7.
I'm sure there's more than that though. I mean,
no, there's only 7.
7. Okay.
No.
So I'm sure you've done more than that too, honestly.
I don't know.
Hard boiled, soft boiled, poached, scrambled, over easy, over medium. You could do a soft scramble because that's a little different than just a straight scrambled egg. You can make
7 right now.
A custard. You can make because those kind of
like an egg dish though. That's a different dish.
No, but the thing is, what do you consider making a meringue?
Well, I mean, lemon meringue pie. I'm putting meringue on top of it.
A baked Alaska. a
cake.
A cake. A souffle. I don't know if how those translate, but
7. There's 7 ways. That's it.
Dear listeners, please prove Sharon wrong. I think she's wrong. She's wrong.
All right, I'm wrong. Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight. It's winter.
This is the segment where you can email us with your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts, but you should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
Food fight, food fight. The food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Sharon, do you have this week's question?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What is it?
Okay, it says, Hi, Sharon and Winter. I have a few coworkers who have some dietary preferences. One is gluten-free, one is vegan, and one is dairy-free and vegetarian. We have potlucks frequently, so I'm wondering if we should all be taking everyone's diet into account and how often. Do you have any tips or advice for me? Thanks, confused home cook.
That kind of happens.
Oh, it happens all the time.
I can think of in my my working situation, that is definitely true.
Yeah. I think so. Before we get too far into it, we should probably make a differentiation, I guess, between a dietary preference and a dietary requirement.
Yes, because if you're a celiac,
if you have celiac disease,
then you will get very sick if you have any sort of gluten
or anything that's been cross-contaminated with gluten, even like a 1/1000th of a particle.
Yes, you will get very sick. So
that's more of a dietary requirement,
right?
Versus a preference,
right?
Like, I'm a vegetarian. That's your preference.
Yeah.
Even though,
unless you're allergic to meat, and there are people that are allergic to meat,
true,
and that would be a requirement.
Yeah. So if you have a food allergy, that's a requirement, because if you consume a certain food, you could get very sick and or
die. Yeah, it's a possibility.
Even people with celiac disease, if they eat enough gluten, they could possibly go into shock.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you say? What do you think?
Well, I've had this issue, I guess. It's not really, I don't know. I don't really think of it as a problem. It's more of just a thing, just an issue where I've had close friends and coworkers that have had different diets than me. Some have been more of a preference and some have been allergies.
Yeah.
I think it's helpful to ask your coworkers, ask your friends, your family, whoever it is in your life that has the allergy or the preference, and ask them about it. Talk about it. They probably have stuff to tell you that you never knew about it. Whether it's an allergy or whether they're a member of PETA and they love animals and they don't want to eat them.
Yeah.
Like, whatever it is, they probably have something to share about it that you don't know. And they can probably give you some really good cooking tips as well.
Yeah.
One of my really dear friends, she has celiac disease and we lived together for a couple of years. And she taught me that there is a difference in tools that are helpful for people with a gluten allergy. There's certain kitchen tools that are preferable to others, such as a wooden spoon. It's been used for any type of gluten before.
Preparation, okay.
Yeah. If it's been used for that, it can actually hold on to some of the proteins in a very microscopic way. Even if it's been through the dishwasher, if you've washed it really well, you've scrubbed the heck out of it, you absolutely know there's nothing on there, it could still harbor some particles of gluten.
Well, there can be very big pores in that wood.
Yeah, there can
be. Or
be.
even small pores. I mean, so she prefers what kind of instruments to
nylon
tools? Oh, okay.
Nylon tools. They just are easier to clean. They're less porous. And so they don't hold on to the bad stuff that ends up being, the gluten that ends up being bad for her.
Interesting. Okay.
So whenever we would make something for her in our house, we always used the nylon utensils versus a wooden spoon or anything like that.
Yeah, I think, so like in my experience, I think I've had 3 coworkers where this has happened. And I think it's an opportunity to try something different. Yeah. Try new recipes, kind of expand your repertoire, I guess. So, because I've found some really fun different recipes, because I have, several friends that are vegetarian or vegan, or they have a gluten intolerance / gluten allergy. And so it kind of makes it fun to see what you can make. It's like a challenge almost.
Yeah. I had a friend who was dairy free, and it was a challenge to make a cake for her.
Yeah, to make it.
Because you couldn't use no butter.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh, what are we going to do for her birthday? So
I also think I'm going to kind of be a little devil's advocate though, because I think that if you want to make something that has gluten or has dairy or whatever it happens to be, if you have these potlucks frequently, you can make what you want too, I say, because I think the people that have chosen their certain preference, if they have a preference and or a requirement, a dietary requirement, they are also extremely aware of their situation.
Yeah.
And I've seen people just they just know that they're not going to eat a half of things. And they usually end up bringing something that they can eat and they share. Does that make sense? I'm not saying bend over backwards, because I think most of them are like, don't worry about me.
Yeah, I mean, most people know, like, if you have a certain preference or requirement for your diet, eating out for you, whether you are eating in somebody else's home or it's a potluck at work or it's a restaurant, eating out becomes a little bit of a challenge, but it's also something that they have now learned to navigate really well.
Yeah,
usually,
they kind of
unless this is a brand new thing. But unless it's a brand new thing for them, like they really do kind of expect it. And so they know that they need to bring their own, or they know to call ahead to the restaurant and ask about their options, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I'm not saying don't be be a jerk and like bring everything,
everything they can't eat.
Exactly.
Like don't bring
every
all the ice cream for your dairy-free fund.
But at the same time, I like go ahead and if you're like, I really just want to share this really awesome recipe that I found, and because other people will be able to enjoy it, that's fine. But every so often throw in a challenge there and make something that everybody can eat.
And here's a hint. Everybody usually can eat fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Although there are, I will put this stipulation out there, there are fruit and vegetable allergies.
Yep, there are plenty.
That's a real thing.
Yep.
But usually stuff from the ground like that is, generally speaking, something that most people can eat.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you can, there's a few options, but maybe this is a chance for you to learn more about said dietary requirements or preferences.
And I think it speaks a lot to you and what a great friend and coworker you are to be asking about it.
Yeah, it is good. Give that a try. Have a potluck.
Thanks for joining us today on our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com, on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music.
You guys, thanks for hanging out with us. This has been super fun. Share the podcast with your food nerdy friends because we like to increase our
food nerd community.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. Anyway, join us next week for our next episode of Food Nerdery.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry squared, yeah, hungry squared.